I never planned to interfere in my CEO's personal life. In fact, I had built my entire career on doing the opposite, staying invisible, efficient professional. The kind of assistant who anticipated meetings before they were scheduled and fixed disasters, before anyone noticed them. Her name was Claire Whitmore, 34 years old, brilliant, ruthless in the boardroom, ice calm during million-dollar negotiations, the youngest CEO our company had ever seen, and completely untouchable. At least, that's what I told myself every day. The night everything went wrong. It was a Friday evening when everything changed. I was finishing up late at the office, nothing unusual, when Claire stepped out of her glass-walled office wearing a dress instead of her usual tailored suit, black, elegant, subtle, but dangerous in the way confidence always is. She caught me staring and smiled faintly. "Working late again, Alex?" "Someone has to keep the company running," I said, trying to sound normal while my brain short-circuited. She hesitated, then sighed. "Would you mind staying on call tonight?" Just in case. That should have been my first clue. The call. It was 9:47 p.m. when my phone rang. "Alex," she said quietly. Too quietly. "Yes? Can you come get me?" I didn't ask questions. I just grabbed my keys. She sent the location. A high-end restaurant downtown. The kind where waiters judge you silently and menus don't list prices. When I arrived, I saw her immediately. Claire was sitting stiffly, across from a man in an expensive suit who leaned too close, spoke too loudly, and touched her wrist far too often. Her eyes met mine. Relief flooded her face, saving her without knowing why. I walked straight to the table. "Claire," I said firmly, "there you are. The board needs you on the phone now." The man frowned. "And you are?" "Her assistant," I wanted to say. Instead, Claire stood abruptly. "My apologies," she said coolly. "An emergency." As we walked away, the man muttered something crude under his breath. I turned back. "She said no," I said calmly. "That should have been enough." He shrank back, startled. Outside, Claire exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. "Thank you," she whispered. I didn't know who else to call. The truth comes out. We sat in my car for a long moment, rain tapping softly on the windshield. "That was a setup, wasn't it?" I asked. She laughed bitterly. "Board recommendation. They think a stable personal life would help investor confidence." I shook my head. It was awful. "I know," she said. Then she looked at me differently, softer, vulnerable. "Alex, do you know why I really called you?" "I didn't." She swallowed. "Because I trust you." My heart skipped. "And because," she continued, voice trembling just slightly, "I didn't want anyone else to see me like that." A confession I never expected. Weeks passed after that night, but something had shifted. She lingered longer at my desk, asked about my day, remembered things small, things about my life. Then one evening, after everyone else had gone, she closed her office door and asked me to sit. "I need to tell you something," she said. I braced myself for bad news. "I've been in love with you for over a year." The room went silent. "You're the only person who's ever treated me like a human instead of a title," she said. "You see me when I'm strong, and when I'm not." I stared at her, stunned. "I thought," she added softly, "you didn't feel the same." I stood up, heart pounding. "Claire," I said, "I've been in love with you since the first day you hired me. I just never thought I was allowed to be." What we risked. We knew the risks. Office politics, scandal, power imbalance whispers. So we took it slow, carefully, quietly. But love has a way of refusing to stay hidden. When the board found out months later, they expected a resignation. Instead, Claire stood up in the meeting and said, "I will not apologize for loving someone who saved me when no one else noticed. I needed saving." Silence, then approval. The ending no one expected. Today, I'm no longer just her assistant. I'm her partner at work and in life. And sometimes, when people ask how it all began, she smiles and says, "He rescued me from a terrible date." What she doesn't always say is the truth. That night, without knowing it, I didn't just save her evening. I saved her heart. Loving Claire in private was simple. Surviving loving her in public was war. The rumors started before the confirmation ever did. Whispers in hallways. Sudden silences when I entered a room. glances that lingered a second too long. People didn't need proof. They needed a story. And they found one. Gold digger. Career climber. Temporary. I heard them all. Claire heard worse. The board's ultimatum. The board meeting was scheduled without explanation. That alone told us everything. 12 people. 12 expressions carved from stone. The chairman spoke first. We admire your performance as CEO, he said to Claire. But this relationship creates a conflict. Claire's jaw tightened. So you want him gone, she said. Silence. Then, yes? I stood up instantly. I'll resign, I said. Effective immediately. Claire's head snapped toward me. No, she said sharply. Sit down. I'd never heard that tone outside negotiations. She rose, steady and fearless. You're asking me to sacrifice the one person who's been loyal to this company without condition, she said. If he goes, I go too. The room froze, walking away together. They expected her to bluff. She didn't. That afternoon, Claire packed her office in silence. No tears, no speeches. When we stepped into the elevator, the doors closed, and she finally exhaled. I've never been that scared, she admitted. I took her hand. Neither have I. She looked at me then, really looked at me. Do you regret it? I shook my head. I regret not choosing you sooner. She smiled, and for the first time since I'd known her, it wasn't the CEO's smile. It was just Claire's. The lowest point. Love doesn't magically pay bills. For weeks, interviews went nowhere. Executives wanted Claire, but without me. Companies wanted me, but only if I distanced myself from her. One night, I found her sitting on the floor of our apartment, papers spread around her. What if I ruined your life? She whispered. I knelt beside her. You saved mine first, I said. I was just too scared to notice. She cried then, not loudly, quietly, the kind of crying that only happens when someone finally feels safe. The twist no one saw coming. 3 months later, the call came. A private investment group, global, quiet, ruthless. They wanted both of us, not as CEO and assistant, as partners. They saw what the board didn't, the investor said. Loyalty, trust, alignment. Claire squeezed my hand under the table. This time, we walked in together. The moment that changed everything. On the day the deal closed, Claire stood on the balcony overlooking the city, wind tugging at her hair. You know, she said, smiling, if you hadn't saved me from that terrible date. I know, I said. You'd still be pretending you didn't need anyone. She turned to me, eyes shining. And you'd still be pretending you weren't enough. I pulled her close. That night didn't just start our story. It proved something dangerous. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't falling. In love, it's walking away from everything else to protect it. Epilogue. People still talk, but now they tell a different story about a CEO who chose love over fear. And the man who saved her, not because he had power, but because he had courage. Failure had brought us together. Success tried to tear us apart. Within a year, our new company exploded faster than anyone predicted. Headlines praised Claire Whitmore as a visionary reborn. Investors called her unstoppable. Podcasts invited her weekly. And me? I became the man beside her. At first, I didn't mind. I loved watching her shine. I loved knowing I'd helped build something real. But love, when mixed with power and attention, attracts shadows. The man from her past. He appeared at a gala in New York. Tall, confident, familiar. I noticed the way Claire stiffened when she saw him. Who's that? I asked casually. She hesitated. Evan Blackwood, my ex. The name hit like ice. Former board member, billionaire heir, the man the old board once wanted her to marry. And now he wanted her back. The poison of doubt. Evan didn't flirt openly. He did something worse. He planted doubt. You've changed, he told Claire gently. You're smaller now, less visible. I watched him speak into her ear, his hand never touching her, but close enough to threaten. Later that night, Claire was quiet. Do you ever feel like you're holding me back? She finally asked. The question broke something inside me. Is that what you feel? I asked. She didn't answer. The breaking point. Weeks passed. Invitations came addressed to Claire Whitmore, +1, optional. Optional! One night, after another event where Evan's name came up, I snapped. If you want the life he's offering, I said bitterly, just say it. Her eyes filled instantly. How dare you, she whispered. After everything we survived, silence swallowed us. That night I slept on the couch, and for the first time since we met, I wondered if love was enough. The choice. The offer came days later. Evan wanted Claire as CEO of a global firm. Double the valuation. Private jet. Total control. One condition. She had to be unattached. She didn't tell me at first. I found the contract on her desk. When she walked in, I was holding it. So this is what all this was about, I said quietly. She closed the door. No, she said firmly. This is about who I become if I say yes. The moment that defined everything. She tore the contract in half. Then again. I already chose, she said, voice shaking. I chose you the night you saved me when no one else cared. I stepped toward her. But if staying with me costs you everything. She stopped me with a kiss. Then it cost nothing, she said. Because without you, success means nothing. The proposal no one expected. Months later, at the same restaurant where I'd rescued her from that terrible date, I dropped to one knee. People stared. Cameras flashed. Claire gasped. I can't promise an easy life, I said. But I promise you'll never face it alone. She laughed through tears. Yes, she said. 1,000 times yes. Epilogue. The media called it reckless. The internet called it legendary. But for us it was simple. She didn't marry power. I didn't marry ambition. We married the truth we almost lost. That love isn't about who shines brighter. It's about who stands beside you when the lights fade. Marriage didn't slow us down. It painted a target on our backs. The wedding was small. No press, no investors. Just a quiet vow exchanged at sunset, where Claire whispered, "You still save me." And I answered, "You still choose me." We thought that was enough. We were wrong. The leak. It started with a headline. CEO's husband accused of insider manipulation. I read it twice, then a third time. The article claimed I'd leaked confidential strategy to inflate stock value before our last funding round. There were documents, emails, numbers only insiders would know, all signed with my name. Within hours, phones exploded. Partners froze accounts. Investors demanded answers. Claire stood in front of the board again. This time they weren't calm. The accusation that hurt most. They didn't fire me. They did something worse. They asked Claire to choose. Step down as CEO, the chairman said, or distance yourself from him publicly. Claire didn't look at them. She looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known her, I saw doubt, not because she believed the lie, but because she feared the truth would cost everything. That night she didn't come home. The distance between us. 3 days passed. No calls, no messages. News channels replayed my face beside words like fraud and deception. On the 4th night, Claire finally stood in the doorway of our apartment. Exhausted, hollow. "I never doubted your loyalty," she said quietly. "I doubted whether the world would forgive loving you." That sentence hurt more than the accusation. The truth no one expected. I did the one thing I'd avoided my entire life. I fought back. I traced the emails, followed the metadata, found the access logs. The leak came from inside her own company, and the name made my blood go cold. Evan Blackwood. He'd never wanted Claire back. He wanted to break her. The confrontation. The meeting was private. Evan smiled when he saw me. "You should have stayed invisible," he said. I slid the evidence across the table. "You forged my name," I said calmly. "But you underestimated one thing." "What's that?" "How far she'd go for the truth." The smile faded. Claire's stand. The emergency board meeting was brutal. Claire walked in alone. Then she played everything. The forensics, the access records, Evan's private messages. The room turned silent. Evan tried to speak. She cut him off. "You tried to destroy my marriage to control my future," she said coldly. "You failed." By sunset, Evan was out. By morning, the retraction was public. By night, Claire came home. The moment that saved us. She didn't say anything. She just collapsed into my arms. "I almost lost you," she whispered. I held her tighter. "No," I said. "We almost lost us." She looked up at me, eyes fierce. "Never again," she said. "No title, no board, no fear will ever come before you." Epilogue. The scandal faded, but the lesson didn't. Love isn't tested when things go wrong. It's tested when fear whispers that walking away would be easier. She stayed. I stayed. And together we became something stronger than power. Unbreakable. After the scandal, life finally slowed. For the first time in years, mornings were quiet. No reporters, no emergency calls, no boardroom battles before sunrise. Just coffee, sunlight, and Claire's hand finding mine without thinking. Then one morning, she stood in the doorway, holding a small white stick. She was smiling. She was crying. And suddenly nothing else mattered. The choice that changed everything. Pregnancy didn't weaken Claire. It clarified her. Late one night, she closed her laptop and said something that stunned everyone, including me. "I'm stepping down." "What?" I whispered. "I've won enough wars," she said softly, resting my hand over her stomach. "Now, I want to build something that won't disappear if the market crashes." The media called it a shock. Investors called it reckless. Claire called it freedom. When love became legacy, our daughter was born on a rainy evening. The same kind of rain that tapped against the windshield. The night I saved Claire from that terrible date, she had Claire's eyes and my stubborn grip. When Claire placed her in my arms, she whispered, "You saved me once." Then she smiled. Now we save her. The sacrifice no one saw. 2 years later, opportunity came knocking again. A global foundation wanted Claire as its leader. Humanitarian work, education, real impact. But it meant travel, risk, long absences. Claire looked at me, torn. "This was always my dream," she admitted. I kissed her forehead. "Then go," I said. "I'll hold the world." "Together while you change it." She shook her head. "No," she said. "We do it together, or not at all." In that moment, I understood. Love isn't about sacrifice alone. It's about shared sacrifice. The ending that truly matters. We didn't become the richest. We didn't chase headlines. But years later, when our daughter asked how we met, Claire laughed and said, "Your father saved me from a terrible date." Our daughter frowned. "That's it?" Claire looked at me. "No," she said softly. "He saved me from becoming someone who forgot how to love." Final words. People think the story is about a CEO and her assistant. It isn't. It's about two people who chose each other when power tried to pull them apart. And in the end, love didn't follow success. Success followed love. Thank you for reading. If this story touched you, like, share, and subscribe. Comment if you believe real love still exists.